Welcome to Mind Patterns. Okay, let's just dive right in, shall we? We're going to talk about that moment, that horrible panic-inducing moment when you're in a conversation and suddenly nothing. Your mind is a total blank. We have all been there, and today we're going to figure out why that happens and, more importantly, how to make sure it basically never happens again. You know that feeling, right? The silence just gets louder and louder. You can feel them just waiting. And your brain, which was working perfectly fine a second ago, is now just like static. It's so awkward, it's frustrating, and it's easy to walk away thinking, man, I'm just bad at this. But what if I told you that's not true at all? So here's this really fascinating idea called the conversation paradox, and it flips the whole problem on its head. The reason you run out of things to say isn't because you have an empty mind, it's because your mind is actually too full. I know, it sounds kind of weird, but stick with me because this is the key to everything. So if your brain is buzzing with all these thoughts, where in the world do they go? Well, they run smack into the real villain of this story, your brain's internal critic. Let's call it the overactive filter. Think of this filter as your own personal bouncer, but like a really, really strict one. It's that little voice in your head going, nope, don't say that, that's weird. Ugh, that's so boring, they won't care. Nah, that's not smart enough. It thinks it's protecting you from embarrassment, but what it's really doing is just shutting you down. And this is exactly how it plays out. It's a three-step process. First, your brain does its job. It comes up with tons of ideas, questions, little observations. But then, step two, the filter gets to work, shooting down every single one. Too random, too simple, nope. Until finally, step three, there's nothing left. Your mind isn't empty, it's been emptied. This quote just hits the nail on the head. It's a vicious cycle. The more you try to find that perfect thing to say, the more ammunition you give your filter. You get so caught up in searching for a witty, brilliant comment that you end up rejecting all the perfectly good normal ones. Okay, so that's the problem. How do we fix it? How do we get past that ridiculously strict bouncer in our head? Well, we need a toolkit. Let's break down 3 really powerful, practical tools you can use to bypass your filter and just let the conversation flow. The first tool is all about speed. It's a really simple rule designed to basically outrun your own brain, or at least the overthinking part of it. It short-circuits that whole cycle of self-doubt before it can even get started. All you have to do is remember one little number. That's it. This is about to be your new best friend in any conversation, and that number is 3. And here it is, the 3-second rule. When a thought pops into your head, you have 3 seconds to say it out loud. That's it. You don't give the filter time to jump in and talk you out of it. Now, this doesn't mean you'll say something crazy. Your basic social instincts are still there. It just means you start trusting your gut and sharing the good, genuine thoughts that are already there. Okay, tool number 2 is a total game changer because it shifts your focus completely. Instead of worrying about what you're going to say, you're going to activate your secret conversation superpower, genuine curiosity. I love this comparison because it's so true. When you're trying to be interesting, it feels like a performance, right? You're under spotlight, you're worried about your lines. But when you switch to being interested, all that pressure just melts away. It stops being a performance and starts being a discovery. You're just exploring who they are. So, how do you actually do it? Well, you actively shift your attention away from yourself and onto them. Instead of thinking, what's my next line? You think, what's cool about their story? You ask follow-up questions. And here's the key. Find the one thing they said that you are actually genuinely curious about, and just pull on that thread. And this is why this tool is so incredibly powerful. When you're truly interested in someone, you make them feel fascinating, you make them feel heard, and that feeling is what they'll remember long after they've forgotten the specific words you used. It's way more powerful than any clever joke you could have come up with. All right, on to our third and final tool. This one is super practical, a technique that literally shows you where to go next in a conversation, so you never feel lost again. It's called conversation threading. So, let's take a really simple, everyday sentence. Someone says this to you. On the surface, it seems pretty basic, but hidden inside this one little sentence is a whole map of places the conversation can go. Just look at all these threads. You can ask about hiking, you can ask about Colorado, you can ask about their brother, you could talk about travel in general, or even the weather there. The point is, you don't have to invent a new topic out of thin air. The other person hands you all these threads to pull on. Once you learn to see them, you realize there's no such thing as a dead end. So what happens when you put these three tools together? Well, the change is huge. You go from being this anxious performer, always worried about flubbing your lines, to being a confident connector who's actually just present and enjoying the moment. So here's your new toolkit, all wrapped up. You've got the 3-second rule to beat your overthinking brain. You've got genuine curiosity, which honestly just makes people want to talk to you more. And you've got conversation threading, which gives you a never-ending supply of things to talk about. It's a complete system. And ultimately, it all comes down to this one major mindset shift. You stop seeing conversations as a test you have to pass, and you start seeing them as an opportunity to discover something new, to connect with someone. So, with these tools in your back pocket, that feeling of dread can actually turn into excitement. You know what's happening in your brain, and you know exactly how to handle it. The only question left is, who are you excited to talk to next? Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more.